This is Eyewitness News Up Close with Bill Ritter.
The hard work of improving New Yorkers' lives starts now.
Less than 2 weeks after his historic victory, and less than 7 weeks before he takes office, Zohran Mamdani is already chipping away at his ambitious list of campaign promises, including rent freezes, free buses, and free childcare.
These are not just slogans. These are commitments, and I look forward to delivering on them.
Of course, chipping away doesn't always mean he will get his way. This morning, we go one-on-one with New York's first Muslim mayor, the city's first South Asian mayor, the first millennial mayor, and the 111th man to lead the nation's largest city.
To every New Yorker in Kensington and Midwood and Hunts Point, know this. This city is your city, and this democracy is yours too.
And good morning, everyone. Welcome to the special one-hour edition of Up Close. I'm Bill Ritter, and we're going to begin this morning with Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani, who takes office in just over 6.5 weeks, but who's counting after his historic win. Mr. Mayor-elect, thank you for joining us once again.
Pleasure to be back.
All right, so let's get right to it. Nearly 2 weeks since your election. Yeah. Before we get into all the weeds, and there's several weeds here I want to talk about. As you get ready to lead this city of 8.5 million people, what keeps your super excited? What does that? And what keeps you a tad worried?
I think the excitement comes from what this moment means for so many New Yorkers. We had more New Yorkers come out and vote than we'd seen in decades. And to see that politics could mean something more than what it has been for the last few years, that it could actually mean a way to address the needs of working class New Yorkers, that's the excitement each and every day where I wake up and I realize that we've been given the opportunity to deliver on an affordability agenda, not just to talk about it.
That's the excitement?
That's the excitement.
What about the stuff that worries you? I know there's got to be something that worries you.
Well, I think, look, we are a city that is facing twin crises. We're facing a crisis of authoritarianism coming out of Washington, D.C., and a crisis of affordability right here across the 5 boroughs. And what worries me is the prospect of continuing down the path that we've been on, one where we treat it as acceptable that so many New Yorkers are being pushed out of the 5 boroughs they call home, and that other New Yorkers are afraid to even leave their homes for fear of being detained or deported by ICE. These are the challenges we have ahead of us, and they are ones that deserve the full focus of the mayor. That's what I'll be giving them.
We're going to talk about all that in the next 20 minutes, 20 minutes.
Unless
you want to
look
stay
at
for
you
40.
Already doubling it up.
Well, I'm trying. You got me. There's no question. Bill Bratton, you know who he is. He has worked for many mayors, including the ones here in New York. Mm-hmm. And he says, I'm going to quote him now, "It's a brief, fleeting moment to celebrate," meaning you and others. And then it's going to be the agony of governing. Does that ring true?
You know, I think this is a brief moment in that of the transition, but I don't view governing as an agony that we are awaiting. I don't view it solely through the lens of pressure or responsibility, also, frankly, through opportunity. But I think what Bill is correct about is that this moment, it is a brief one, and it's the question of what do we use it for? Because oftentimes transitions are pageantry. They are the moments where you announce all of the people that you know, that you owe favors to, this, that, and the other. We want this to be a moment where we're actually preparing ourselves for January 1st. And that means spending these next 46, 47 days that we have actually preparing. That means putting out a hiring portal where we've received now more than 50,000 applications. That means having a team that can vet those applications, that can actually go through real hiring processes. And that means also pushing forward implementation plans for our policy. Because too often this is a time of just celebration as opposed to preparation. We want to make it both.
40,000 people, you said?
50,000.
50,000, that's what I thought. So 50,000.
50,000 people.
And how do you do that?
Well, I think the first thing is you actually build a team that can look through these applications. And the beautiful thing about it is for too long in city government, it's been more to do with who you know than what you do. And we want to turn that on its head. We want it to actually be about the work. And I'll tell you, Bill, we've actually received applicants from every single zip code except for one. And if you are watching, from 11695, we need you. Please apply so we can knock every zip code out of the park.
Don't beg. You don't have to beg, sir. Really. But there are a lot of people who want to come in.
There are.
Yeah.
There are.
And so that makes you feel pretty good, too.
And I think I try and remember this in the context of the fact that there are about 17,000 vacancies in city government right now. And we've been told a story that those vacancies are partially because of a lack of interest in working in city government in this moment. And what we're seeing actually is the interest is immense so long as there's a vision for what city government does. And to be at around more than 50,000 now to be getting applicants who are either in their 20s or they've served for 20 years already in the work of public service. It shows that this interest, it spans every borough, it spans every single kind of New Yorker, and what it needs is a city that can finally live up to that.
Let's talk about the transition team. It is young. There's no question about that. Hiring people to help run this city. 5 women you chose to run it and to be the big kahunas there. I hear you raised a lot of money as well.
We did.
$1 million?
We have. We've just raised $1 million, and unlike in previous transitions, we're doing this with an average donation of less than $80 a person, and that's because it's being funded by the same people who brought us to this point. People who see themselves in our politics for the first time in a long time, whether they're giving $1 or whether they're giving $100.
Okay. The transition team is young.
You know,
right?
I would say the transition team is both my age and older. We have a first deputy mayor we're also very excited to announce.
He's not young.
He's
in my head, he's younger than I am, but for most people, he's very young.
He has 47 years of experience in public service, and he's done an incredible job. And the people who are leading our transition, our co-chairs, we're speaking about people who...
We have his picture name.
Yes,
and you can name who he is.
Yes,
right?
that's Dean Foulahan. That's El Bisgard Church.
He's very smart, very experienced.
He is an incredible public servant, and he has been a steward of the city and the state through a number of different crises, whether we're speaking about 2008 financial crisis, whether we're speaking about COVID, and now as we face these crises ahead of us, it's important to both have imagination and ambition and experience all at once. And the women who are leading our transition, we're speaking about people who have served as first deputy mayor, like Maria Torres Springer. We're speaking of those who have shepherded us through a crisis of COVID, like Mel Hartzog. We're speaking about Grace Bonilla, who has been a deputy mayor for social services and delivering on so many of the things that are often overlooked. And we're also speaking about Lena Khan, someone who actually understood that the law could be a tool to help working people, which is especially important in a time when Donald Trump is using it as a weapon against working people.
A diverse group.
Yes.
And that was important to you?
It was. I think it's reflective of the fact that excellence looks like the city that we look to represent, and that's what we're seeing in these 4 co-chairs and in our executive director, Ilana Leopold.
All right, still, let's go deeper into the woods.
Let's go.
Being the first Muslim mayor in a city with more than 900,000 Muslims and also about 1 million Jewish people. Huge amounts of pressure being mayor of the nation's biggest city. There's no question about it. But also a great opportunity to bring people together. And that's really that's what's ahead of you. There's no question. In the process, a kind of lesson, I think, is also to the world about this.
Yes, and I think that's what makes me so proud to be a New Yorker, is growing up in a celebration of the ways in which we come from so many different places, so many different faiths, and we belong to the same city. And even just growing up here, I moved here when I was 7 years old, and I remember learning about this city, learning about the people who call it home, and being so excited about the fact that this is a representation of the world at large. And it's time to have a mayor who recognizes that my responsibility isn't just to one set of New Yorkers or those that voted for me or those that voted at all. It's to every person of the 8.5 million who call it home.
Not everyone would say, okay, I want to do that. But there's a lot of pressure to this. You don't seem to be at all afraid of that.
Well, I think it's because of how much I love the city. It's to have the opportunity to serve the city, it's the honor of a lifetime. And especially just thinking about the memories I've had growing up across the city, whether it means growing up in Morningside Heights or going to high school in the Bronx or representing Queens or having worked in southern Brooklyn and going to Staten Island as inspiration for free public transit. These are the examples to me of what the city can mean, what it does mean, and what we finally have to start to serve it.
Extra pressure by being the first Muslim?
I don't view it as extra pressure. I view it as an opportunity to show that every single one of us in the city belongs. And I have to tell you that when I see, especially younger kids who have often been told that their dreams have to fit within a certain box, and that they look at this candidacy and this campaign as an illustration that they could be anything, that means the world to me.
You have said in the past, which is only a year since we first met, and you're doing it very, with verbal passion, I think, that you will be a mayor for all of New York. How do you make that happen? Because that's not an easy thing to do.
No, it's not. I think it's someone who understands that there will be New Yorkers who love you, there will be New Yorkers who hate you, and you represent all of them. And I think too often we try and separate ourselves from the public as much as we can to insulate ourselves from that kind of a response, when what New Yorkers deserve is a mayor that they can see, they can talk to, even one that they can yell at. And I take inspiration from, in many ways, the way that Mayor Koch would engage with the city. He wasn't afraid to go out there and ask people how he was doing. And I think in a similar way, we need to bring public service back into the public sphere. And I'm looking forward to doing that. I mean, I'll just tell you, I was campaigning in the last few weeks of the general election. and there was someone who pulled up in her car on Nostrand Ave, and she looked at me, and she yelled, "I'm voting for you!" And it sounds like someone's angry at you, but they're actually telling you something that's supportive. And that's in many ways a New York City experience. And you have to be ready for all of those
There
things.
will be some people during your tenure who will get angry.
Oh, absolutely.
There's no question.
Absolutely.
All right.
And I wouldn't want it any other way, because if you only hear people that support you, you're living in a fantasy.
Have you talked at all to Mayor Adams? He was out of town. I guess he's coming back pretty soon. Have you met? By now, a lot of people would say, "Well, have you had dinner? Have you had lunch? Do you watch a movie? Something, anything?"
Yeah.
You haven't done that yet.
I'm waiting for Mayor Adams to come back into the city, but we will be sitting down when he does. And I had a conversation with him. And what I have to say is, despite the many political disagreements that we have, I am appreciative of the fact that the transition itself is one that is moving forward. It's one where our teams have been in contact, and that's something I appreciate, because New Yorkers deserve a smooth transition, so they can actually deserve having a mayor who's focused on the job at hand.
There's been no shortage of barbs and vibes between the two of you, more from him right now. Have you thought about that and wondered why?
I think we have a fundamental disagreement on what the job actually means, what the purpose of that job is, in that, I view this as a way to make it easier for New Yorkers to afford to live in the most expensive city in the United States of America. Mayor Adams has taken a few decisions in the past few weeks and months that make it harder to live in this city. And that's a place of disagreement, and I'm honest about that.
Yeah, but you have said in the past that there are problems, and that he is actually doing things that are going to hurt you.
Yeah,
you've said that. You didn't make any bones about that.
No, and I think it's important to be direct with New Yorkers. I'm someone who has spoken about the importance of freezing the rent for more than 2 million rent-stabilized tenants. The mayor takes a different view of it. He has raised the rent on those New Yorkers by more than 12% and is looking to cement that legacy. That's a place of clear disagreement, and I'm looking forward to showing New Yorkers what it can actually look like to deliver on our agenda.
You've called it the cement legacy of dysfunction and inconsistency. Are you worried about his people working with your people behind the scenes to make this smooth?
I can tell you that the way in which his team has worked with our team on the transition side, that has been something that I have no complaints about.
Let's talk about Jessica Tisch. Do you have a meeting scheduled with her? She is, of course, the commissioner of the NYPD.
So
you want her to stay?
Yes, I do want her to stay, and I made that commitment during the election. That's something that I continue to believe, and I just want to explain the why of it all, which is that when Commissioner Tisch came into the NYPD, she came into a police department that Mayor Adams had stacked the upper echelons of with corruption and incompetence, and she started to root that out, started to deliver accountability, reduce crime across the 5 boroughs, and that's something I'm looking to build on under a Mamdani administration in tandem with creating a Department of Community Safety that finally takes the issues of the mental health crisis and the homelessness crisis and understands them as responsibilities outside of the police department. And I met with Commissioner Tisch just this past week and continue to be confident in the necessity of us delivering on this agenda and more.
She is, like the other police commissioners under this mayor, closely managed by Mayor Adams. He's a former cop. Maybe that was going to happen no matter what. Did she say anything to you that she doesn't want that to happen? She wants to be in charge of that?
I think the conversation was more about what it can look like to continue to deliver public safety and what it could look like, especially without the distractions that we've seen over the last few years. And this is something that I shared, that I want this to be about the outcomes, because the most important thing is that New Yorkers are given a city that is safe and a city that is just. And too often those things have been put in tension.
Will she stay in that office?
I continue to be confident in my decision, but as soon as there's a public announcement to be made, we'll be sure to share.
Did she say, I got to think about this?
More of the conversation, frankly, had to do with what it looks like to deliver that public safety.
She has said more than once that the officers, she wants more of them. And you don't have that in your positions yet.
I think that the number of officers that we have is the right amount. I think the better question, frankly, that is often lost in our politics is how do we keep those officers on the force? Because when we started running this race, we were seeing about 200 officers leave the department every month. Now we're seeing about 350. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that we're asking officers to do the impossible. We're asking them to not only respond to serious crimes, but also 200,000 mental health calls a year. And that just is too much work for one person to do.
You're talking about one powerful woman. Let's talk about another, the governor of New York. You met with her as well this last week. How did that go?
It was a really productive conversation, and I appreciated not only the conversation, but also the shared commitment to affordability. And one of the things I shared with the governor is that when I went to meet with veterans at Volunteers of America, one veteran pulled me aside and said, I know we're not supposed to talk about politics, but I want to let you know that I didn't have any food in my fridge because of this shutdown. And when you all put money back into SNAP here, it meant that I could actually start to feed myself. And I told that veteran that this was the governor who had done this. And it's the kind of work that New Yorkers need to see, because too often what we've seen pass for leadership, especially coming out of Washington, D.C., is a willingness to play politics with working people's lives. Yeah. And we've seen previous shutdowns. We haven't seen the choice to take SNAP out of those shutdowns until this one. And it's critically important that we show in New York City it can be different than that, and I'm appreciative of the governor's leadership.
And the showdown is done now nationally, and that's a good thing. She said outright, though, unless I got it wrong, she would not support your plan for free buses, saying, I cannot set forth a plan right now that takes money out of a system that relies on fares from buses. How did you respond?
Well, the governor and I share an opinion on this, which is that we need to ensure that we are fully funding the MTA for whatever we ask them to do. There have been too many times where the MTA is asked to do something where we take away fare box revenue and we say, you got to make it work. Our proposal here is to actually replace the money that you would make through fares through revenue raisers, still make the MTA whole. And that's where we have a clear agreement that all of this needs to be done to ensure the MTA comes out of it on the other side.
This was a cornerstone promise of your campaign. Can you fulfill it when she's already saying no, though?
I continue to be confident in our ability to fulfill this. Okay. And I believe that fulfilling it has to be one that also ensures we're finding replacement funding, not just asking the MTA to do the impossible.
But you're working okay together, because just moments later than that, if I'm right by what people tell me, last week you also had a push for universal child care, $6 billion, and she was behind that.
We share that belief in universal childcare, and that's one of the things that also made that meeting so productive. It is one that is looking to address the second highest cost for New Yorkers after housing. You know, New Yorkers with young families comprise about 14% of our city's population. They comprise about 30% of the population that's leaving New York City, and that's because it costs $22,500 a year to get childcare.
Let's talk about something that you both may have talked about, I assume, as well. One of the things that she supposedly talked to you about this last week was preparing for the possibility of President Trump bringing in troops to New York City and the rest of New York. What did you talk about? And how do you do that?
We talked about the fact that we do not need the National Guard here in New York City. I agree with Commissioner Tisch and that the NYPD is tasked with and able to fulfill the responsibility of delivering public safety. And what we need in this city right now, frankly, is more of an investment into the things that New Yorkers are struggling with. And what I hear from those New Yorkers is cost of living. And so we will have a unified front, myself, the governor, the attorney general, in showcasing that any attempt to deploy the National Guard here in New York City, it's not an attack on an individual politician like myself, it's an attack on the city. And I think we see in examples elsewhere across the country that when you are able to work in partnership with elected officials, civic society, business leaders, faith leaders, you can show what the city actually needs, and that's what we're going to do.
How do you stop that? You know, does the President Trump in this sort of way? No pun intended.
Well, I think you always make the affirmative case, and that's why I've said that I look forward to having a conversation with President Trump, because it's one where I'll make clear if he wants to work together to deliver on his campaign promises of cheaper groceries or a lower cost of living, I am there and I am ready to go. But if he wants to talk about pursuing a campaign agenda that comes at the expense of New Yorkers, that is something that I will fight.
You've been reaching out to other leaders around the country, people who you respect, about Mr. Trump. How did that go?
I've really appreciated it, frankly. Having the conversations, whether it's with Governor Wes Moore or Governor J.B. Pritzker or receiving outreach from Governor Newsom, these are governors who have been on the front lines of many of the threats that we're talking about with New York, and what they've shown is what it can look like to actually fight back. I'll give you the example of California. You had Governor Newsom, you had the Attorney General, you had the Mayor of L.A., all of them came together to file a lawsuit in opposition to the federal government's deployment of the National Guard. Them doing so led to a judge finding in their favor that that deployment was illegal. And also the Attorney General there estimated that for every dollar they spent on legal fees, they recovered more than $30,000 in federal funds that would have otherwise been stripped of them. So it shows us the example. Working together, using the courts, not backing down from your values and the clarity of your convictions. That's what we need to see in the city. That's what we'll deliver.
We have 1 minute left to take a quick break and then bring some other stuff in. But I have some quick questions. You said you would arrest Benjamin Netanyahu based on the 2024 International Court Arrest Warrant. Next UN General Assembly, as mayor, would you do that?
So I've said time and again that I believe this is a city of international law, and being a city of international law means looking to uphold international law, and that means upholding the warrants from the International Criminal Court, whether they're for Benjamin Netanyahu or Vladimir Putin. I think that that's critically important to showcase our values, and unlike Donald Trump, I'm someone who looks to exist within the confines of the laws that we have. So I will look to exhaust every legal possibility, not to create my own laws to do so.
On the other hand, this is also a world event. Does that not count a little bit?
Well, I think we are a global city, but I also think what New Yorkers are looking for is consistency in the way in which we talk about our values and follow through on them. And that's why I think these warrants from the International Criminal Court, they are worth fully exploring every legal possibility to actually follow through on.
Okay, you can have some water. We're going to take a quick break.
I'll take you up on it.
No, you're really good at that. We're going to talk about, not important things like your parents, your wife,
the people who raised
where
me,
you're going to move, the people. Exactly. When we come back, all right? And we'll be right back. Welcome back to Up Close. We continue our conversation with Mayor-elect Mamdani. Where to begin? Let's talk about, real quickly, about the money you've raised. $1 million. And I'm told it's not just $1 million. It's little teeny amounts of dollars.
It's an average donation of less than $80 a person. And I think that's so exciting because so often what we've seen in transitions is you're seeing a desire to fund the entire set of your political framework with those who have already been a part of that political donor class. And what we're showing is that we can actually build a mass movement, not just at the ballot box, but even in preparing for city government. And that's why we've seen thousands of New Yorkers come together to donate, whether it's $1, $100. They're showing that they believe in the necessity of being ready on January 1st, and it's an honor to serve them.
Going back, we're supposed to go forward. I'm going to go back really quickly
please.
To just 2 weeks ago, this coming Tuesday, and your victory speech. A lot of people thought you were a little bitter in some of that. You said something that really got to me. You said it in your victory speech, that we campaign in poetry and we govern in prose. I didn't hear you cite the person who said that in real life decades ago. Maybe you did, but I didn't hear you say that. He's a very famous person, and he had great meaning, especially because of who said it originally.
Yes, and those are the words of Mario Cuomo. That's the former governor of the state. And those are words that are so iconic that every one of us knows exactly who it is that said it when we utter them. And I think it's an indication of the importance of not only working through what our campaign was, but also continuing that same work in governing and showing that this is a city that can be one that lives up to the peaks that we've hit in the past and also gets through the valleys that we're living through right now.
Prose. It's beginning, right?
It has to begin.
It has to begin. I have so many things to do, and I'm looking at this and I'm saying, oh my goodness, we're not going to have time.
Well, I'll be back.
Real quickly. Well, I hope so. Real quickly.
Yes.
Are you going to move out of your one-bedroom apartment into a mansion, Gracie Mansion?
You sound like my super now.
I'm so sorry. Do I sound like your parents? No? Your parents say you should stay where you are?
There's no pressure from them.
Okay.
But this is a decision I'm going to be making with my wife, and as soon as we make it, we'll be sharing it publicly.
Promise?
Yeah, I promise we'll be sharing
because
it publicly.
it's a nice place and a big place.
Yeah, it's definitely bigger than the one bedroom.
And as you know, a guy
the sink probably does not leak.
Okay, I think you're probably right. It's got 5 big bedrooms and all sorts of things. It's a beautiful place.
It is.
You could probably go there when you meet with Mr. Adams.
It may be. I've been there a few times. I've met with the mayor there, as well as the previous mayor. It is a beautiful home.
No question about it. And maybe it'll be yours, at least for
we'll
however long you want to be there. One newspaper described your wife, Rama, as saying she represents a new era of politics, which speaks to a new generation of voters, their words. And they say she is arguably the U.S.'s first Generation Z First Lady. So another first, as if you don't have enough first.
We're just collecting them at this
point.
point.
What role do you want your wife to play? What role does she want to play as First Lady?
Well, I think the most important thing for me is that she not only be understood as my wife or the First Lady, but also as her own person. And she is an incredible artist who has charted a course for what it can look like to engage with the world in the fullness of herself. And I think more than any role, more than any expectation, I want her to be able to be herself. And that's going to be at the heart of whatever decisions we make.
Oh, that's prose is what that is. And that sounds like a happy husband and a happy wife. That's fantastic. She's an artist and illustrator. I want to get this down. Syrian heritage, whose work, according to this newspaper, explores themes of Arab identity, female experience, and social justice. So she backs a lot of things you believe in.
Yes, and I think she's also, frankly, someone who has inspired myself as well as others in understanding the importance of art in the way in which we communicate. When we were putting together the logo of this campaign, I would bring it over to her and I would ask her, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? And if you look at the logo closely and you see the bottom right-hand corner of the R, it is something that she actually added the flourish to, because it was something that should represent what this campaign is also about.
Have you thought about your swearing in?
No,
Are you going to do it to a Quran?
I have to be honest with you, I haven't much thought about anything beyond the next week and the 2 weeks after that.
Oh, interesting.
But as soon as I do get to the business of swearing in and inaugurations, that's something we'll share.
Finally, I have a question from our producer, who I've known and has worked with for 25 years, Zahir. Like you, he was born in Uganda.
Yeah.
And he said this: your mother told an Indian newspaper that you were really a Desi kid. I don't know what that means. I don't think our people there know what it means out in the audience. Zahir knows what that means. Yeah. Tell our audience what that means. And are you a Desi kid?
Desi is it's a word that describes really many of us from South Asia. And that is a big part of my heritage. And I'm proud to be the first Indian American mayor of the city, the first South Asian American mayor of the city. And I think it speaks to the fact that as New Yorkers, we can be many things all at the same time. We can be proud of our heritage and proud of our home. And to me, that's also what it looks like to represent this city in its fullness. And I'll be bringing that with me to City Hall. There's a lot of pressure on you. You know that. You're the first in many ways. You say you want to be a mayor for all the city. You have a great opportunity to do that, sir. And I think that a lot of people listening to this right now understand that and hope, if they're real New Yorkers, hope for the best. Well, I share their hope, and now it's my job to deliver. I look forward to it. Okay. Thank you, my friend. Anytime. Thank you. You're ready. We want to thank the new mayor-elect and wish him well. We also hope to see you on Up Close frequently once you take office, sir. Yes. Good luck. Coming Up Close continues after another half hour. Yes, we got a big pot here this Sunday. It's happening this morning. The government shutdown is over, but was the pain really worth all this? And what did it accomplish? And what are the chances that subsidies for Obama healthcare will be extended for next year?